and she died in August of 2010 when she was 16. And in our friendship, and getting to know her parents and the rest of her family and her friends as well, I came to think very differently about the story that I was writing. For one thing, that awkwardly handsome or ruggedly handsome, I was describing myself two different ways over the course of the many iterations of this story, but it was always adverb handsome. That guy fell away, and he was replaced by no one, which was a great decision. And instead I focused on the kids. I decided that I wanted to try my best to give voice to the life of sick people, because too often the stories that we hear about the lives of sick people are really about healthy people, right? Like, oh, this sick person came into my life, and now as a result of having known, usually her, because it's patriarchal construction, as a result of having known her, and as a result of her untimely death, I now know to be grateful for every day. Well, that's all fine and good, except that it imagines that the reason that this person existed and suffered and died was so that you could learn a lesson. That's ridiculous. That is not the meaning of your life, and it is not the meaning of anyone else's life, whether they are well or disabled or ill or whatever. The meaning of your life is not merely to, impart lessons via your suffering to other people. I wanted to try to give voice to that sick person and to say, that in my experience, sick and dying people are every bit as funny and vivacious and interesting and angry and annoying and everything else as other people. And in doing so, I wanted to argue that it is not only long lives that are full and rich and good lives, but that a short life can also be a good life. And that's the great lesson that Esther taught me through her life, because it was a very short life. It was also a very good and rich life. I was, for the whole decade after I worked at the Children's Hospital, I was so angry. And I was so full of despair. And when I looked at that place, all I could really feel was hopelessness. All I could really feel in terms of, an intellectual response to it was nihilism. And Esther came into my life and said, actually, this does suck, and I don't want to pretend that it doesn't suck, and I'm not psyched about it, but I like being alive. Like, I am grateful to have loved and to have been loved. And I like being here, and I'm not excited about the pain. I don't think that it has any meaning. I don't think that it's got, transcendent suffering or anything, but I am grateful to be alive, and I have a good life. And that was the great gift that allowed me to write The Fault in Our Stars. And then the book came out, and besides just collaborating with Esther, and many other people, I should say. I mean, every novel, you think like books are written by just one person, but that is not the case at all. No book was ever written by just one person. This book is a collaboration between lots and lots and lots of people, including every person who ever emailed me to ask what happens after the end of Looking for Alaska, a question that infuriated me so profoundly that I inserted a book inside of this book so that a girl could ask that same question of an author who could then yell at her. Which in turn only led to lots of people emailing me to ask what happens after the end of this book. And I'm like, well, I quit. I'll move on and talk about something else. I'm going to just read to you from the beginning. And this was a few paragraphs in the book that I was writing in 2000, 2001, 2005. Some of that survived, but this first chapter all emerged after knowing Esther, knowing how fierce and funny she was. And I don't want anyone to think that Hazel in this story is Esther. I really don't want in any way to appropriate her story, and they're very different people. And also, Esther hated America's Next Top Model, and isn't here to defend herself against the many accusations that I hurl at Hazel in this novel. So I want to be very clear about that. They're very different people, but it was Esther's empathy and fierceness and sarcasm and just general hilarity that I did try to bring to at least some of the voice in the story. So this is the very beginning. Late in the winter of my 17th year, my mother decided I was depressed. presumably because I rarely left the house, spent quite a lot of time in bed, read the same book over and over, ate infrequently, and devoted quite a bit of my abundant free time to thinking about death. Whenever you read a cancer booklet or website or whatever, they always list depression among the side effects of cancer. But in fact, depression is a side effect of dying. Cancer is also a side effect of dying. Almost everything is, really. A lot of people have taken, this is off topic, a lot of people have taken issue with that line, but it is correct. Cancer is a side effect of dying, as is almost all illness, because if it weren't for cell death, there would be no need for cell reproduction, and if it weren't for cells reproducing and mutating, the cancer would not happen, and you know this, we know this for an absolute fact, because zombies don't get cancer. Okay. Anyway. Also, Hazel believes that at the beginning of the book. I don't think she'd say that at the end of the book, because she has a much more complicated view of death. Anyway. Alright. Anyway, my mom believed I required treatment, so she took me to see my regular Dr. Jim, who agreed that I was veritably swimming in a paralyzing and totally clinical depression, and that therefore my meds should be adjusted, and also I should attend a weekly support group. The support group featured a rotating cast of characters in various states of tumor-driven unwellness. Why did the cast rotate? A side effect of dying. The support group, of course, was depressing as hell. It met every Wednesday in the basement of a stone-walled Episcopal church shaped like a cross. We sat in a circle right in the middle of the cross, right where the two boards would have met, where the heart of Jesus would have been. I noticed this because Patrick, the support group leader and only person over 18 in the room, talked about the heart of Jesus every freaking meeting, all about how we, as young cancer survivors, were sitting right in Christ's very sacred heart or whatever. So here's how it went in God's heart. The 6 or 7 or 10 of us walked/wheeled in, grazed at a decrepit selection of cookies and lemonade, sat down in the circle of trust, and listened to Patrick recount for the 1000th time his depressingly miserable life story. How he had cancer in his balls, and they thought he was going to die, but he didn't die, and now here he is, a full-grown adult in a church basement in the 137th nicest city in America, divorced, addicted to video games, mostly friendless, eking out a meager living by exploiting his cancer-tastic past, slowly working his way toward a master's degree that will not improve his career prospects, waiting, as we all do, for the sword of Damocles to give him the relief that he escaped those many years ago, when cancer took both of his nuts, but spared what only the most generous soul would call his life. And you too might be so lucky. Thank you. So that's a little bit of my book, The Fault in Our Stars. I'll be answering some of your questions about it in a little while. Thank you for submitting these. I will also be answering questions with Hank and a very special guest.